Hey everyone, this is Manmohit from M&M PTE NAATI. In today's video, I am going to discuss with you all the last minute tips that everyone should be aware of and following in order to get your desired scores in the PTE exam. So this video is especially for those people who have prepared for the exam, they are aware of the 20 topics, they've given a couple of mock tests, and now let's say they haven't booked the exam, they're about to, or they have already booked the exam and now they're on the verge of giving this exam. So these are few tips that you should be following at the very last minute, very basic ones, but then again, they're definitely going to help you in the real exam. Now, just before we proceed, if you need any sort of one-on-one consultations like 30 minutes or 1 hour consultation one-on-one with me or Mohit, you can get in touch with us on Instagram or Facebook. Just search for M&MMPT Nati. The links would be there in the description box, or you can just search for this name so that we can discuss all these things with you. If you need any sort of coaching for PTE or coaching for NAATI Hindi, Punjabi or Gujarati, it's gonna be me and Mohit who would be teaching personally. So you can get in touch with us over there. Or if you just need the prediction files for this NAATI Hindi, Punjabi or Gujarati, again, you can get in touch with us on Instagram or Facebook and we can have a chat over there. Now, if you are going to give this PTE exam for the very first time, you do need to make sure that you reach at least 30 minutes prior to your exam start time. So if your exam starts at 10 a.m., you should be there in your exam center just 30 minutes before. So that means at 9:30. And the same way, if your exam is at about 2 p.m., you just should be reaching there about 1:30 p.m. So that, because if it's the first time, they have to do all those formalities that they do at the very beginning, like the ID check, doing your palm scanner, all those kind of things. So just giving them enough amount of time. If you have given the exam before, you can reach even 15 minutes before the exam start time and you should be all good. Again, I recommend, even if you have given the exam before, just to reach half an hour early, because you don't want to be in a situation where there is some sort of, let's say, road troubles or traffic congestion, all those kind of things, and you just reach the exam barely making it and then giving an exam, because you don't want to be under any more pressure than you already are. So that's a very first step, I would say, very basic one, but just make sure, even if you have given the exam before, just reaching there half an hour early, just to give you ample amount of time to breathe in, have some water, relax, calm down and be confident. Another tip that I would give is, now, when you start your exam, if you have given the exam before, you would be aware. If not, what happens is at the very beginning, before you even reach your very first topic, which is your read aloud topic, you do get that microphone check screen. And obviously the headphone check screen where you can listen to the audio and you can see if it's loud enough or not. Now, by default, that audio should be at 50%, but that is something I want you to change at the very beginning. The minimum I would recommend is having the volume at 80%, or you can even keep it at 100%. I personally prefer keeping it at 100%. And the reason for that is you might feel that the audio is very loud, but then once that exam starts and you especially do your listening module where you need to listen a lot of audios, there are certain instances where the audio might be muffled, the audio is not clear, there's some background noise, the audio isn't loud enough. Could be any reason, could be any kind of thing, but you just want to make sure your volume is at 80% or more. Now, it's not that you can't change it in every single question. Yes, you can, but then in the exam, once that exam starts, it's going to be such a fast-paced exam, like less than 2 hours nowadays, that you will not have enough time at every single question to adjust the volume, and you don't want to play with the volume bar once that exam has started. So make sure that volume is at 80% or more even before you start the exam as very first step. Now, once that headphone check screen is done, the next one is your microphone check. Now, that's the game changer, I would say, especially for your speaking, reading and listening modules. Once you're at your microphone check position screen, I've seen many students, what they do is they will read whatever is given on their screen. Let's say the instruction says, say testing, 1, 2, 3. So they'll speak out these 5 words and then they'll just start with the exam. Never do that. Always and always make sure when you get that microphone check screen at the very beginning, do not just say those 5 words and move on. Take your time, speak a couple of sentences in there, or speak at least a template if you have already memorized something. Speak a couple of sentences so that when you are testing your microphone position, you also want to make sure that there is no breathing sound that is getting recorded. Because if you find any sort of breathing sound which is being recorded, that can hinder your scores in the exam. So if the microphone is not at the right position, that can create a bit of an issue. Or if the microphone is very near to your mouth and you're speaking and you're breathing heavily, all those breathing sounds can also get recorded. I would be putting a link to one of my video in the description where I've explained what microphone position to use, where to keep the microphone, all this kind of thing. So watch that one out as well after this, just so that you're well and fully aware of where should you be putting your microphone in the real exam. So that's my another tip, making sure that you take enough amount of time during the microphone check screen. And once you start with the speaking module, do not bother about touching the microphone, because if you touch the microphone, you will not have another chance in the exam to check your microphone position. It only happens at the very beginning. It doesn't happen after that. So that's another tip. Afterwards, let's say you've started the exam, or this is something you should be doing before starting the exam. Now, we know if you haven't given the exam before, what would happen is you would be getting 2 markers given in the exam. You would be getting erasable notebook, plus you would be getting 2 markers. Now, markers are not very thick ones. They're very thin markers, and you get 2 of them. Now, because PTE also has to cut costs, what they usually tend to do is if they give a new marker to someone in the morning, let's say someone gave an exam at 10 a.m., then you go and give an exam at 2 p.m. There is a slight chance that they may just give you the same markers that were used by the previous student. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. If the markers are working perfectly fine, that is absolutely perfect. But this is something you want to check before you even start your exam. Now, I've seen many students making this minor mistake, is that when they do this checking of the marker thing at the very beginning, they'll just write down a name or just draw a line and just be over with it. Now, that is not how you want to check your markers. What you want to do is, you are given 2 markers, take 1 complete page and start drawing just some gibberish lines here and there on your notebook that has been given to you. Make sure you check both of the markers thoroughly and properly. If you feel that the marker is not dark enough, let's say it's just not working properly. Now, I'm not saying just one of them, both of them, just make note of that. If you feel that the markers are not up to the mark, call the invigilator right away. Make sure you get them replaced at the very beginning of the exam, because once you start with the exam, you just cannot pause the exam, you cannot stop the exam. And if for some reason the markers stop working during that exam has already begun, that's it, it's game over. You can call the invigilator, they can replace the markers during the exam, but just keep one thing in mind, that your questions are running away. So never let that happen. That's a very silly thing to do. Always make sure you check both of your markers. And on the markers, there's another tip I'll give you, is that those markers and the erasable notebook, the laminated notebook that you're getting in the exam, just think about it. If you leave the markers cap open for like 10, 15, 20 seconds, the markers are going to dry out. That's very normal, right? Now, this is one thing that you want to avoid in your PTE exam, especially for the topics like retell lecture or summarize spoken text, the topics where you have to take a lot of notes. What you need to do is always keep the cap closed until that audio has started playing. Some students, what they do is, you get 7 seconds or so before the audio starts playing. They'll remove the cap, they'll have the marker ready in their hand. So by the time the audio starts playing, the marker has already dried out. It doesn't really work properly. You don't want to do that. What you have to do is keep the cap closed. When that audio starts to play, you remove the cap and then you start taking notes. Once you are done taking notes of one question, you close the marker right away and then you proceed with answering your question. Because it's not just going to be one question that you get in the exam. You get so many questions where you have to take notes. So make sure the markers are closed at all times, otherwise they will dry out. So these were a few tips. Another tip that I can give you. Now, throughout the exam, because it's a computer-based exam, there is a chance that you might come across some sort of, let's say, technical issues, which is very common, I would say, because it's a computer-based exam. Now, if any sort of technical issues happen, and that has actually happened with me once. So if any technical issue happen, you don't have to panic or stress or anything. That's common. What you do is, wherever you would be sitting, you would be seeing that there's a camera right on top of you. There's a CCTV, or you can just say a camera, which is being handled by an invigilator, which is sitting outside. So if any sort of technical issue happens, what you do is, you don't start screaming or just get up or anything like that. Now, that's not ideal. You just look at the camera right at the top, and then you just wave your hands like this to them. With this, what would happen is, the invigilator who's sitting outside, they're watching all the cameras, all the students. And when you wave your hands, they will know that you're calling them for help. Invigilator comes in and then obviously discusses with you whatever issues you were having, and then they get sorted out. So that's very normal, that's common, expect that. Another tip that I would give you is, especially for students who have not given the PTE exam before, it's very different to any other English exam out there. Every single student, let's say there's 10 students sitting and giving the exam at the same time, all of them would be doing speaking at the same time. I can already imagine if there's 10 people, 10 students sitting there and giving and doing the speaking at the very same time, how loud that atmosphere is going to be, how much background noise you would have to deal with. Because some students do not know that before giving their first exam and they are not aware of what is going to happen. With that, what happens usually is they get nervous, they panic, they get stressed, they can't hear their voice properly, and because of that they lose a lot of points in the speaking module, also impacting their reading and listening. So now you know that there's going to be a lot of background noise. What I always recommend my students is to, whenever they practice, make sure that you have got some sort of background noise on. From now on, whenever you practice your read aloud, repeat sentence, describe image, retell lecture, any of these speaking topics, make sure just play some music in the background, or just open YouTube or any other app or website, anything like that, and play some background noise on there. Best thing you can do is just open YouTube, another tab, and just search for background noise or airport background noise, anything like that, any sort of background noise. Play that and then do your speaking practice. With that, what's happening is that you're making your brain used to those kind of background noises, just so that once you go and give your real exam, you won't even feel those background noises anymore, because you've already practiced and trained your brain in such a way. These were the few tips that I actually wanted to share. I can't think of any other tip, but yeah, these are the few last minute tips that everyone should be following, and making sure that you follow that in your real exam. Even if you have given the exam before, or if you're giving your exam for the very first time, these tips are definitely going to be a game changer. Very basic ones, like I said at the very beginning, but then yes, so much helpful. With that, I'm done with this video. If you have any sort of questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Or if you want to discuss any sort of questions, you can text us on Instagram or Facebook and we can discuss with you over there. All the best if you have got your exams coming soon. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.